You know what I've been thinking about so much since that youth conference? They asked the kids in the audience, do you guys have any questions? And this one kid, res kid, they're all res kids, asked me, what's the resiest thing you ever did?
What was it?
Well, I said, because like when I was in university, because I was on the alumni panel, so I was trying to like tell them why school was so important, right? And one time I got invited to the dean's lunch, and like, and I took my freaking margarine container, you know, and I took home food. And I was like, if that's resi, I'm like, I don't know, like, but I don't know if I was like that resi back in school either. I was pretty nerdy. I don't know. What's the resiest thing you guys ever do?
Rolling syrup.
Well,
I don't know.
Settle down. Settle down. Settle down.
Settle down. Settle down. Settle down.
Settle down. Settle down. Settle down.
Settle down.
Settle right down.
It's a settle down.
Oh my God, settle down. Kahkiyaw. I'm Mallory Yongway. I'm from Satellite Cree Nation. I'm the founder of Indigenous Box. We work to bring Indigenous makers and their businesses, sharing their products and their stories in a way that supports relationships and keeps value moving through our communities. And I'm here with my co-host, my lovely co-host, Niwâhkômâkanitik. Introduce yourselves.
Tanse, Mahagan, Oyoyos, Esqueo, Natsigasan. My name is Shawnee Gwynn. I am Métis and First Nations, and I am the founder of Pipiguan Petaguan and Wasigan Kisawatsuan.
Tansei, I'm Felicia Dewar, and I am the CEO and founder of Miskamasoan Foods. And I'm on a journey back to my community and my heritage, language, and culture, and sharing what I've learned along the way.
I'm Vanessa Marshall. I am CEO of Jack 59. Jack 59, we create sustainable hair care products. To date, we have eliminated over 1 million plastic bottles from entering the environment. I am from the Swan River First Nation in northern Alberta and a proud Earth warrior.
In this episode, we're talking about relationships in every sense of the word, how interconnectedness and reciprocity can be a business strategy for our communities and for our businesses. So let's settle in, because it's time to settle down. Now that you got to know us a little bit more in our last episodes, I wanted to bring in a kahkiyaw concept, a Cree concept. It's about how it guides my worldview, how it guides my life and business. It's kahkiyaw, niwâhkômâkanitik, all my relations. This concept shapes everything that I do, how I was raised, and how I understand my work, that I'm not separate, that I'm part of this living people, this web of living people and land, ancestors, future generations, forward and backwards, and how my choices move through that web. But something important about this teaching that is sometimes missed is that you only come to understand relations by traveling without them for a while. And so some of us were raised inside community. Some of us had to go looking for it. Some of us are still on their way back. All things exist so that I can exist, and I exist so all things can exist. But that awareness often comes through the journey, not just belonging. So when I look at the four of us, I don't just see this friendship. I see the four of us on different paths. 4 different paths moving together in relation until they came crossed in that restaurant just a few months ago. So how do you think this idea of kahkiyaw, niwâhkômâkanitik, all my relations, how do you think this idea of finding, losing, and rebuilding relations is what actually brought the 4 of us together?
I think it's so beautiful, actually, when I hear you say it and I picture how it all came together and at different times, even like for myself, the different times our paths crossed. And it's such a beautiful thought to be like, yeah, we are all part of that same almost ecosystem. And, you know, this was meant to be. like this was supposed to happen. This is the journey I'm on and I'm supposed to be on, and you're supposed to be a part of my journey. And I think looking at it that way for me, like it's really beautiful.
I like to think that our journeys were meant to come together. You know, when we first started, I think we sought out your Bannock in the beginning, and she'd come to our warehouse and we sat and had this beautiful conversation. And so much of like building our business is on relationships. And so like it wasn't just buying your products, it was like aligning ourselves together and like understanding your business path and understanding my business path and how we can kind of travel together. You know?
I like to think of that, you know, when you look at all my relations in business, I think in a colonial sense, it's basically networking, right? It's like what people talk about networking, except I agree that the way that looking at it as relationships and relations, like you're all my relations, it puts a higher value to that. You're not just somebody that I met at a conference and we're going to try to work together. You know, it really means that I put value in you and our relationship and what we can achieve together. Like I think that's also very beautiful.
I think also sometimes society puts this negative spin on it. What do they call it in English? Sorry, the word just escaped. Nepotism.
Oh, yes.
And they're like, oh, it's nepotism because she gave that contract. It's like, no, it's relations. Like, I know that you do this really well. I'm going to include you because there's this thing that we need to do really well. That's your area. That's your gift, right? We bring together all of those gifts in the center of it.
Yeah.
It's not a negative thing. I don't know.
We share our strengths, right? Like we sit with each other through the weakness and the hard times, but we also see the strength in each other. And I think that is something that we do through our relationship as well. Is like no one is expected to be good at everything, and nobody is. But even seeing relationship that way of like, oh, you know, this person's really strong here, and they struggle when we put them in this place. And it's even making me think of how much I struggled being a CEO. Like at first I was like, oh my gosh. And thinking even in a colonial context of like, I'm the one who's in power here. Like I have power over these people. They're working for me. But then when I started talking more about decolonizing, it's like, no, I'm actually part of this circle too. And I want you guys to start seeing me that way.
Yeah. I love that because thinking that I had power over people was just so bizarre to me. There's no way that, you know, first of all, that I could ever feel like I had power over them, and never mind do something that they would view it like I had power over them. Like it just felt so wrong.
Totally.
You know, so even my employees are like my relations because they're helping to make this thing happen. And I don't know. I just love the concept of all my relations, putting that into every aspect of our lives as an entrepreneur, as a CEO. Like, I just think people respect you so much more when they look at you as somebody who is an equal to them. And to me, that would be a relation. Like, yes, we have higher relations, I guess, in our families and whatnot, but I think we respect each other all the same, whether you're an auntie or a cousin or sister or brother, right? Like you all have that same respect, and we all bring different things to the table. And another thing, I mean, looking at it like in a cultural sense, I mean, I think we're all, I'm obviously not, you know, as deep into the culture as Mallory or Shawnee, but I'm learning and I'm growing, and you know, I think maybe I don't have that in my culture of my life so much, but it so naturally fits into my business, you know, and maybe that's the path for me. That maybe that's what was meant, is I didn't actually have it in my life, but I get to incorporate that into my business. I don't know. Sometimes the learning is ongoing and interesting to me for the culture.
I always like to think of this idea, like when we started Indigenous Box, we had this thought about each person having a gift, you know, like in my community, how I was raised, like with the parents that I have. My dad is like an incredible hunter. My mom is an incredible cook and gardener. And so like they came together like in their relationship to share the abundance, right? And so like it was part of how I was raised, where like, you know, now Indigenous box, you're good at bannock and you're good at making shampoo bars. And so we bring together each gift for like the greater good. Our mission is to like push forward Indigenous business and like, you know, move the mark for the expectation for Indigenous businesses to thrive, and like challenge the assumptions, challenge the misconceptions. And like, I also like want to challenge the idea of like what all my relations is. And like the thought of like having not all of my relations, without relations. And like there has to be a contrast, the balance for those things to exist, right?
Well, and sorry, I didn't mean to kind of interrupt there, but
Interrupt me.
right. So like it's also the relationship with the earth, the water, the land. Like that was kind of my initial goal, was having a better relationship with the land and getting rid of plastic and having clean ingredients and really doing something that is going to last for future generations, you know, and changing kind of the cosmetic world of how people look at product packaging. And to me, that was very relational, you know, and yeah, I don't know. That was just kind of like, when people think of relationships, they don't often think of a relationship with the land, right? So I just wanted to tie that in.
That's the benefit we have as Indigenous women. We see the two worlds we walk within, the Western world, where maybe those things aren't included in the network, in the business network sense. You know, when people are networking, they're not understanding their position in the environment or their decisions that they make that affect the health of others. And so we get to bring that gift to that space just by perspective.
Well, and Teresa talked about it in, I think, the first episode about women and water. And then, you know, Leroy Little Bear, he spoke to Calgary City Council and he shared
I love him.
about, right? I know. And he shared, you know, the body is 70 to 75% water. And so what you do to the water, you do to yourself. So you're all, you know, that's relationship. So we have to think about that. And even when some of our community members feel like they don't belong, I've certainly felt like that at certain points. You have to remember you're even connected through the memory in the water and your blood that's in you, that you have that blood memory of your ancestors and it's surrounding you all the time. You're always connected no matter what. You don't have a choice. There's always this power with you if you choose to, you know, open yourself up to it and see it and feel it. But it can be hard when we're so human.
It's true. Hey. And like, I know, Felicia, like you're still reconnecting with your culture. And I know sometimes that this can be a challenging subject because there's a lot of trauma and pain around it. But I mean, the very nature of your business, you're creating a bannock that increases and like builds relationships. I mean, when people eat bannock and buy your bannock and, you know, the whole view around it is you're creating community, you know, even if you're shipping that away for them to create their community, that's still like so much about who your business is and what they create. Like, I love that so much because I think sometimes we can feel like we don't belong or we don't have enough knowledge or, you know, it wasn't taught to us when we were little. Because I joined, like, I'm also with you in that. I didn't have that when I was little. But it's amazing to me how even Indigenous women who were not raised in ceremony or with the culture, that inherently those values are still inside of you no matter what. Like, so I love that about your business.
All my relations is it just sounds like such a beautiful thing. And when you didn't grow up in it, it's just one more thing you missed out on, right? And so I appreciate and love the sentiment and the teaching around all my relations and how, you know, if you don't have it, you know, then you're learning. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to share really quickly. One is the All My Relations really hit home for me probably 2 years ago. I had met and did a workshop with a lady, Nicole, from Sovereign Seeds. And she is a seed keeper, and she's just, oh my gosh, she's amazing. The traditional knowledge she has. She's brought back a species of corn that Indigenous people lost. And she does, she works with like museums and looks at pictures and tries to determine what the attributes are. Like, she's just incredible. Anyways, so she always talks about kind of the journey of seeds and our plant relatives. And all my relations really stuck to me because she said, when our ancestors were being herded up and sent to reserves and displaced, our plant relatives were there and they saw it and they soaked up the tears and they felt it. And I'm even getting goosebumps right now. And so that memory that you called a blood memory for our plants, they have that memory too, where their ancestors, or even them, because our plant friends last so much longer than we do, they saw us, they felt it. And we are caretakers of them. And then all of a sudden we were gone and they were alone without us. And to me, that was so powerful, such a powerful way of looking at all my relations and really realizing that, wait, I wasn't alone on this journey. And just because there wasn't a person beside me, there are relations that were with me that I didn't realize. So that was the first thing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that almost broke me when she told that teaching. Honest to God, that almost broke me. I was like, oh my God, they were there.
Yeah.
And they lost too.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second thing is on a more upbeat note. I can just imagine Vanessa with doing, her mad scientist look that you attributed on, I think, last one, and just talking to every shampoo bar going, go out in the world and do good things. Yeah, do good things.
And they do good.
And they do.
I know. I'm a big fan.
I love that so much. And I think, if we kind of, take this back to, because there are kind of the two aspects of it in our own personal lives, the relationship that we build there and with our ancestors and the plants and all of that. But then, we take that into our businesses. And I think, building it for my business is where I'm kind of focused right now, is because that is my new addiction. This is what I'm consumed with right now. And sometimes it's a challenge, and especially with other businesses. You all know my whole thing is like, we're stronger together, and reaching out to other businesses and being like, let's do this together. And a lot of people would just look at you kind of like your competition, or they don't want to tell you their secrets. So I don't know, that's always really challenging. So I'm still going to just always be relational with people, and I won't lose that. But as much as struggles can be in life, they're also often the same struggles in business. So, yeah.
So how do we feel, the concept of all my relations does, how does that go into our business network?
Oh, it's like at the heart of Indigenous Box. Like, we created Indigenous Box on the concept of all my relations. And that's why it's in my email signature. And I recognize it every time. I know that my existence and Indigenous Box's existence is relational. Like, we exist because we saw a gap, not a gap in innovation or lack of education in creating businesses, but a lack of infrastructure. So we wanted to be like, okay, how do we help with the building blocks for the Indigenous economy? Well, how do we do our part? Every decision we make has to be considered with the decisions of your guys' business. How do you want to be marketed? How do you want to sell your products? How do you want to share your story? Like, we exist only in relation to the Indigenous businesses that we serve.
You guys are incredible at that. Like, really, you do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Because we feel heard, put in some information on who you are. And it's true, because you're always giving entrepreneurs little tips like, oh, this card is beautiful, but it doesn't even say who you are. Yes. Right? Like, add your business. You're always mentoring the businesses that go into your box. And that, to me, is what relational means, that it's not even, because I kind of like put them together with networking, but there's a total separate piece to that. And you at Indigenous Box and your team are absolutely incredible in creating relations that wouldn't exist without you. So I appreciate that you do that.
And we push that onto our customers too. Like, we tell people, like, if they're buying from Indigenous businesses, they have a responsibility to understand the story, to understand the maker of who created these, this piece, or to share about why putting their dollars towards Indigenous businesses matters. And so we try to make sure that we're not the heroes here. It's our customers, and we're mobilizing a group of people who want to make change.
Totally.
And we're in the middle, like, we're on one side, somebody called us a pressure regulator.
Oh, yeah.
And on the other side, we're putting the pressure on corporate, like on both sides. And on the other side, we're buffering it so that Indigenous businesses don't get taken advantage of, that people are held accountable, that we make sure that stories are protected, and we do it in a way that is like true to the businesses we serve. And I don't know, it's relationships and bringing people together is the heart of what we do in my business.
You're also a keeper of relationships.
A protector.
In your business, right? Like a
gee.
protector of that.
Yeah,
That's a lot of what you do.
Yeah, I was just thinking, listening and thinking. And first I just have a little auntie moment, because I was telling you gals that I was at Enoch this weekend, and I went to the gas station, and there were these cute little earrings I bought. And I opened up the bag, and it was like, "Thank you so very much," it says. And then there's a little card and says, "Thank you for supporting a small business." And I could not find their name. And so if you're listening and you're selling your earrings at Enoch gas station, make sure you put your business name on there, because you make beautiful pieces and I want to support you. And I did. I bought your earrings. But for my business, I think, even when we do branding, something that we do very differently is, like, in a lot of non-Indigenous spaces, you hear a lot about white space and the psychology of color. And a lot of the psychology of color is based on a colonial or white perspective and what colors mean. Red is emergency or danger, and you see yellow and red used a lot, so this means it's cheap or safety or something. And so when you look at it from an Indigenous worldview, you can't create a logo or a brand without story. And so everything we do, we write story. Every color has a meaning. Every element has a meaning. And then you walk away with a piece that is so unique and special to you, and which is all about that interconnectedness and that special relationship. And we wouldn't do that if our clients didn't trust us with their story. Because some of these stories, oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. And I think about this one photographer who came, and his grandma told him a story about how he's a hummingbird, and the hummingbird the story is the hummingbird would go to the river and just take as much water as it could to help the other animals put out the forest fire. And so the hummingbird was just like, bloop, bloop, bloop. And so his logo is this beautiful hummingbird, and it's just gorgeous. And so when people share those stories with us, we're so honored, and we get to be part of that, which is also part of that interconnectedness. It stays with us. We are learning their teachings and their stories.
Now, how would somebody from the Western world, under this banner of we're all business up front, business first, business everything, ever get that story and ever create something so meaningful for that business owner? It is transactional. Like, it really is just...
Yeah, we just got a logo. It just says Jack 59.
That is its purpose.
It's true, but I really feel like we're not good at portraying our story. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
we all, yeah.
Yeah, the beauty behind it. Like, you want that little hummingbird. I know. We are going to work together 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, get some money. Just kidding.
Well,
Uncle,
I
I need some sunya.
hey, lend me $20. Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's possible. I have seen, like, we work with another agency in town, Sticks and Stones, and they do such a good job of their illustration and their storytelling. We love working with them, and it's possible, but it has to come from that relational place. You have to get to know people, you know. You can't just sort of go in and be like, tell me all the brands and logos you like and the colors and blah, 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 blah. It's...
Oh my gosh. I have sat in on so many of those.
Yes.
What do you mean people don't do that?
What do you want to be? Funny?
Yes.
Smart? You know, and it's like,
Yep.
well, tell me more about your business. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And like, you hear all these stories, like Vanessa has this really beautiful relationship with the planet, right? That is such an amazing story. And I get so excited. We worked with Felicia on her story, and it's beautiful, the things that we learned and were able to support you with. And I don't know, Mallory, you're going to have to hire me one of these days. But I always get to see.
Yeah.
But you already do such a good job,
Well, that's my team. I'm learning how, I think probably one of the biggest criticisms that I have for myself is that I don't know how to share story or thoughts or communicate in a way that makes sense, because I'm always thinking, is this palatable? Am I palatable in this sense, right? And so I have to get better at sharing what it is that I want and how I want it told.
Well, and you were talking about those little videos that you did with the mushrooms and cookums, and we were all like, oh my gosh, that needs to be out in the world. But you're right, because we do live in two worlds.
Yeah.
And as much as our relations and our culture and our people are supporting us, there's such a whole other aspect to that. And is it palatable? Are they going to understand? Is it going to be something that matches what they need? So along with the relationships that we're creating with ourselves and our culture, we're also trying to create relationships in the colonial sense. Part of I have a white dad and an Indigenous mom. So, there's advantages and disadvantages to that.
We have as storytellers, inherently storytellers, whether or not you're connected to community from the beginning or you're reconnecting to community, at the heart of it, we're storytellers. And so as Indigenous women, we have this challenge of having to tell our stories that are both palatable, air quotes, palatable in the Western world, or credible in the Western world, we'll say, credible, but also that carry the weight of community on the other side too. So we have to be able to make sure that we're centering ourselves in the middle of both those worlds, which is, in business, that could be challenging. And it's hard for us to talk about humility earlier, but it's hard for us to talk about what we've done, how we've done it, the successes we've had. And our community needs that. We need to talk more about what we do and how we do it. And so much of that is centered around relationships and growing together.
Well, and you kind of think about it, it can be a bit hypocritical, because a lot of non-Indigenous companies, they do work out of relationship, but you have to be part of that network, or you have to be, you have to think like them, you have to be like them, or there's all this nepotism happening, and that circle stays so small. And I think even in PR, so much of the learning that we did was talking about your relation. It's all about your relationship with the public, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, I think in Indigenous businesses, that relationship doesn't have a hard stop. It's like when you were talking about Jen from Cheekbone, there's lots of people that reach out to me and I never really think about it. And, one of my staff was like, I love that you just meet with all these random people that can, and I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, why? And I'm like, well, they want to talk, and I don't know, they're going to have a visit, and you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who they are. Maybe they are connected to you in some way. And so I have to say no sometimes, but I really try to stay connected and learn about everyone and meet them. And I don't shut them out just because I don't know them already, or that they're not in my circle that already exists. And so there is sort of that gatekeeping that happens in non-Indigenous communities. It happens in Indigenous communities too. But I do find we're a lot more...
Or pay to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about the pay to play, and it's so frustrating. You want to be in this wonderful women's networking group, but it's $8,000 a year. Welcome, come on in.
Yeah.
And to me that's super frustrating, because it's, you'll learn a lot probably, but it also just sort of feels staged. It's like, if you don't pay, you're kind of not good enough to be there, or
there's some validation,
big enough, or right? Oh, you're one of us, and you get a pat on the back, and you get to go to these conferences and stuff. And I don't know.
I don't know. I've never been part of the like cool people's club,
kids.
you know,
either.
like I was like 6 feet by the time I was a grade 7. No, everybody was like, how's the weather up there? I was in my own little world in the clouds, being a dreamer, you know. But I don't know. How do you think that the non-Indigenous world incorporates the concept of kahkiyaw niwâhkômâkanitik? You know, like how are there businesses that we see that include that?
Well, in my experience, one of the best organizations that I've been dealing with is a B Corp. B Corp is very similar to like what I would say Indigenous values. They're about protecting people, the earth, climate change, you know, just making a difference in the world in a positive way, kindness, respect. And they've done some incredible things. There is some pay to play, but not necessarily. And people can be involved in it no matter who you are. You don't have to actually pay to be in there. And they have like a document that you can fill out and you can kind of work away at it slowly and make small changes in your business. So I think they're creating a relationship that's connected to the earth. That's probably my biggest example that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always go to these conferences where like I feel like impact I think is relatively new. Like I would say in the last couple decades where consumers are more aware, customers want to put their dollars to where it makes sense for their community. But I think that there's a lot of corporations that are coming out saying like tacking impact on as an add-on, an afterthought, right? And you can see how it doesn't work. But you know, I want to learn about how they're trying to incorporate relations in there. And I think I used to go to these conferences where I would talk about, you know, integrating our suppliers into what we do. And now I go to conferences and hear like a lot of people talking about, or these corporations talking about, you know, backwards integration as if, you know, moving backwards, like thinking about your suppliers and how it affects your bottom line is important now. But like all along, we knew that was important.
Yeah.
They just called it something and it's this new concept.
You know, sometimes we have to also like learn, like, and I'll say like from a non-Indigenous business, like I think that they need to stop and like listen to us sometimes. Smarten up, settle down, listen here.
down.
You know, like I'll tell you how to involve community, you know, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I think makes it so beautiful is when Indigenous and non-Indigenous businesses can work together because there's so much lessons learned.
Yeah, I think that's something I see quite a bit is, you know, we have a lot of non-Indigenous people that want to work with us to help typically reach other Indigenous people, or they want to take on an Indigenous project of some kind. And it's really cool to see the transformation that happens sometimes is that, you know, sometimes I think they think we don't like them in the beginning. And it's like, no, we like you. We're just direct about what you have to do. You want to build relationships in community, you got to do as you say. And we're going to tell you that we could do all this stuff, but if it's not followed by some of these other things,
It's not a page on your website. It's an action.
you're not
right?
going to have that success you're looking for. And so I think, though, what happens is I start to see this evolution of themselves personally and of their company as they start to understand some of our concepts of how we are connected and how to work together. And, you know, I've had a couple like white clients be like, "You're like my therapist." And I'm like, "No, I am not your therapist, but I'm glad that you're feeling something. I'm glad that you are being challenged in some way, because I think we all want to work this way in the end, but we're also told it has to be this way." You know, even when I'm, you know, I am looking for investors if anyone ever wants to invest in my company. But when I had to go meet with some investors and I left and I was like so upset. I was just like, But I only allowed it for a few minutes, and someone told me if someone is mean to you, just wipe their energy off you. So I just started being, "Ugh, get off of me." But in the moment, they kept schooling me, being like, you do not know how to speak our language. If you want us to invest in you, you got to learn how to speak to investors. And I was like, blink, blink, blink. Like, I'm like, okay. In the meantime, I'm like telling them about wasigen kisawatsuin and what it's going to do. And they were like, we need to know this, this, and this. And I understand that. But at the same time,
I just want to share kindness.
I know, I'm like,
Right.
don't you just
What's
like
win?
me and want to be my friend and give me $100,000? But yeah, it is like, it's sort of like kind of standing up to some bullies sometimes. And the other part is like, they think they want you there. And so you get invited in. And then you're there and you're like, oh, they want me here. And next thing you know, you find out you're being isolated. And when you do speak up, it's not the things they want you to say. And then you become sort of this bad person because they don't understand what they're talking about. I can see all these connections about how it's going to impact this thing. And that might be my PR brain, but it's also my indigeneity. It's my holistic worldview. It's all my relations. And they're like, well, we can have nice things. It's like, yes, I want you to have nice things, but think about all these other things that are harmed for you to have that nice thing.
Yeah. That's like my life story.
Oh my gosh.
And like people will come to our booth and be like, we're trying to just be nice and introduce them. We're a woman-owned Indigenous business, and our goals are to, reduce the plastic in the world. And I have this gigantic Costco bottle. It lasts me, 5
I
months.
only paid $5
And
for
I
it.
only paid $5. Yeah. And then that gigantic plastic bottle gets put into our recycling, and we only recycle about 9% of it. So it's left here forever. And like, I always had this vision, like, look, and when I'm trying to create relationships with people in this, it's like, look down the aisle of one drugstore and look how many plastic bottles are there. Think of how many drugstores are in the world and how many bottles have ever been on those shelves, because all of those bottles are still on our planet. And like, yes, I'm trying to create this relationship because I want them to care. How do you make people care about that? So when you're talking about all my relations, there's also this aspect of our customers, right? Like, we're trying to create these relationships, but they have to care because our products are a little more expensive. Not because I just make them expensive. It's because they're so concentrated, right? Like, you're paying for a fraction of that in a bottle with 80% water. So in creating these relationships with other companies, with, your customers, with white people, they have to care.
Yeah.
And when they don't care, it's just like you're just talking to a wall, and it's frustrating. And sometimes I wonder, like, we're not a huge business, and we grew huge in the beginning, but we really haven't had that much growth over these last few years. And I think it's really kind of what you're saying. This whole sustainability thing is sort of new and it's not brand new, but it's sort of just like hovering here.
Yeah. We have
with
to educate
exactly,
and then push
right? Like, it's
forward
so much work.
in that space. Like,
Yeah.
baby steps. And I think in the grand scheme of things, yes, sustainability, impact, all of the like diversity, equity, inclusion is a relatively new thing. And so we're trying, Indigenous businesses, Indigenous box, we try to educate people, create the market, fill the market, and try to push forward, raise the bar and make sure that customers are accountable to the environment. I think that's where we forget too, is that like all my relations means accountability. We have to be accountable to ourselves, the relationship we have with ourselves to show up every day, the relationship we have with our suppliers.
Hi.
And accountable to the environment and like the impact that we create. Like, sometimes we have to look at that and look in the mirror and be like, okay, who am I accountable today? Is it me? Is it is it Shawnee? Is it Vanessa? Like, we have to think about those things.
It's so very true.
So I had the immense pleasure this week of being the host that got to meet with our elder, Teresa Strawberry, something I've really been looking forward to since Shawnee introduced her to us. The teaching that she gave was very heartfelt. And if you want to look behind you here, We're going to play it for you now.
For me, when I talk about all of my relations, normally I'm more comfortable in saying it in my language, which is niwâhkômâkanitik. So when I talk about niwâhkômâkanitik, it's just not my siblings, my kids, my children, my great-grandchildren. It's all that's interconnected with that, whether it's the aunties, the uncles, and the grandfathers. And also when I talk about the all my relations, it's the past generations of my relations that have passed on, always acknowledging them. But also, when I speak about all my relations, it's my relations with the plants, the trees, the swimmers, the flyers, the four-legged, right? So it all encompasses everything that I talk about when I talk about my relation, especially in a prayer or ceremony, right? So totally connected to all those things. And the last thing is also using the medicine wheel in the four directions, the four colors that guides us with the reminder that we're all interconnected, all in relationship, including Mother Earth itself.
Oh, me. Cutie. Every time.
You're gonna be okay.
Oh, I just love her so much.
I can hear other elders in Teresa, when they talk about the winged ones, the four-legged, and I just grateful to rehear it here with all of you.
And the swimmers. I never heard it put like that before.
Really? You never watched Land Before Time? Because that's what came to my mind.
Land Before Time.
I'm a flyer.
Oh my God.
I'm a swimmer.
Yeah, yeah. I never
like,
thought of it like that.
That's been carried throughout time.
I
love when she talks about it like that, because when you hear an elder say a prayer at an event or a ceremony, they always include like all of the little things, the movement, even like they welcome everything into that space, just to make sure that we're all thinking about all of our relations when we're there, when we show up there.
And even her talking about the medicine wheel, because while that teaching could go on forever, there's so many elements to the medicine wheel, but another core part of that interconnectedness is your interconnectedness with yourself. So it's mind, body, spirit, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And so thinking about even that as an entrepreneur, that was probably my hardest lesson in my life, was learning about how my mindset was actually impacting my physical health. And it took a very scary thing to happen to me for me to start changing my mindset, like very much this scarcity mindset, survival, fear, and then moving into abundance, thriving, celebration.
It reaffirms like what we already know sitting here in this circle. All four of us have come together in her teaching of the medicine wheel, the four directions. The medicine wheel, I think if for our listeners who don't know, it's a journey, it's circular. And so we bring that back into our businesses, and at the heart of it is us. We're strengthening that circle. We're making decisions that will build that fire. And so how do we, like in our businesses where we believe that we're making these generational investments into the Indigenous economy or into community, how do we make sure that our businesses are actually leaving the woodpile higher for the next four women who are going to sit at our desks?
Yeah. Creating that generational wealth. I even think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is really taken from the Blackfoot. But he kind of got it mixed up, because the Blackfoot believe that you actually arrive self-actualized. And Maslow's is all about self-actualization. How do you reach that, right? So they believe that you already come in, and then the rest is about how to work, how to be on the planet in community, in circle. And so I think about, even in terms of wealth, we look at that differently. What is wealth in our community? This is wealth. Us for being here together and supporting each other, right? That's wealth. But a lot of people don't see it that way. And so when I think about generational investment, I think about, my first 2 clients outside of my own relationships were from my parents, people that knew my parents. And so I say this sometimes where I'm like, I'm not getting handed down all this money, I'm getting handed down this wealth of relationships. And Pipiguan Petaguan has been built on that investment from my parents and from their parents and my aunts and my uncles and my friggin' cousins everywhere, They all say my name in the room, and I know you all say my name in the room, and that is wealth. And so they've left that with me, and it's my job to leave that with my kids and my employees and those that I support, and make sure I leave that wood behind. Or if they want to chart their own territory, right? They don't have to use the wood that I left. They can go hack away, try it on their own.
I love that you talk about generational wealth, because I think for me, for my 2 kids, that's really what I have in mind, is leaving the world better for them. Leaving something better that they can choose to use through the business, or have something set up that they can choose to do their own path. But just having something, something to offer them. And I think that, I don't know, it's super important to me. I really didn't have anything from my mom's side, from the culture side. What I was given was from my dad's side. So I have a bit of a different perspective on what was given to me through my generational wealth, I guess, was actually some wealth to it. Like there was some financial contributions there, but it was transactional, right? I mean, it was still from a family member, and it still meant the world to me, but it was sort of here you are, use this and grow something out of it. Like there was almost expectations to it. So I love your piece better. Just kidding.
What I also think of we try to do with our businesses is like, creating opportunities for the future. Like, and I say this to my team, I say this to my husband all the time and to my kids, is that our goal is not, and this goes back to our prior meeting with Teresa before the podcast, but she talks about us being co-creators with the creator. And, I think innovation is supposed to move through us. It's not us that is doing it. Our goal is try to leave it better than we received it.
Yes.
And how do we, plant seeds? How do we plant seeds that we'll never experience the shade from? And I think that's what we do as Indigenous business owners. We're just trying to move the needle a little bit more,
It's funny that you were talking about seeds, because that is exactly.
That's what it reminded me of.
Right? I love that, because it's something that I would assume, this is an assumption, but like those big millionaires with their money are not giving a shit about the trees that are not giving them shade. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's right now. Like it's
their concern is right now.
Yeah.
Right. And whereas I think just inherently our goal is like there, it's over there, the next generation and what we're going to leave behind. And just, it's not even necessarily what are you going to leave behind, just that you're concerned that you want to leave something behind, and whether that's an attitude or kindness, like that's so important to me. And I do get tied up in the scarcity mindset sometimes but I think that's wise, because I'm so afraid that I'm going to make a mistake that doesn't leave something for my future generations, you know? So it's not so much just like, oh, I'm not going to have anything, but I'm not going to have anything to give,
Yeah.
you know? So I think scarcity, when people, somebody made a comment online a while ago about, they're stuck in the scarcity mindset. It's like, you have no idea what you're talking about right now. You really don't.
No.
Because scarcity to you is like, I'm not being paid. Well, okay, that's one thing, but the scarcity is way bigger than that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something, I don't know if I mean, we can just do our best and have the best intentions and focus on making that happen.
And it gets better
right?
and better and better.
Absolutely.
With the more intergenerational knowledge that we seed into what we do right now is going to reap benefits for the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I always do say, like, you know, even if my business failed, we would have done so much amazing impact and beauty in the world, and building relationships and meeting people and experiences. And, you know, I'm always going to be richer for that. So I'll always be, you know, forever grateful in the moment and building. So, yeah.
Well, and when you hit that scarcity mindset, because I do too, it's not like it's all like sunshine and everything all the time, because I definitely do. Like this last week, oh my goodness, when I get tired, too overwhelmed,
Hungry.
too stressed, probably hungry. A snack. You know, it's easy to just shift into negative town. And so, yeah, I think you just have to be more aware of it and be like, okay, I need to what's my mind telling me? I need to take a break. I need to go breathe fresh air. But one thing I want to point out is this whole time what we've been talking about is the matriarchy. You know, a lot of people think the matriarchy is about women and women being in power and control. It's actually about our children.
Yeah.
It's about what we leave behind. It's about nurturing and care. And so when we talk about having matriarchal businesses, this is what we're talking about. And so I just thought it would be good to highlight that right now.
I love that so much.
I feel like I'm missing out on this whole conversation because I don't want to interrupt, because I feel like I'm soaking it in. So because I'm soaking it in, it takes so long for me to go, oh yeah, I do have something to So I have to go back. I could go back like 3 conversations right now with all that's on my head. So maybe I'll write it down for a future episode. But, you know, I was listening to you say like what you inherited and what you inherited from your dad. And the only thing that goes through my mind is, oh, wow, I inherited trauma.
We all got that.
Yes, right? I have a lot of that too.
And so for me, I'm like, that's what's on my forefront right now, is that I've inherited trauma. And how do I not pass that on to the next generation? Or how do I work through that enough that I'm not giving that to the next generation? You know, and so that's the journey that I'm still on right now.
I was just gonna say.
Like, do you know if that's the only thing that I could pass on to my kids is for them not to feel that, not to know the trauma that I experienced? I would say that was a huge success.
And I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot about economic. I like that.
We're speaking Cree now.
I'm going to say it like that now. I'm going to be like, listen, this is the economic situation.
Now you guys made me sorry. It's like, but it was a cute word for sure. Yeah, I really wanted to just kind of touch on the fact that our economic status is not always the same, and sometimes you can't pass on that generational wealth that the Western world considers wealth, which is, you know, obviously money, fiduciary, you know, and so I do think that having the goal of not passing on that trauma, or at least the least amount of it possible, is an important goal to have.
Yes.
As far as business, you know, for me, it's not even what I want to pass on to my kids so much as I want to make the path easier for those coming behind me that want to, you know, be in that CPG space or want to create an indigenous food item and
Consumer
take it.
product goods.
Yes.
CPG, yes.
You throw things like that around, where I want to make the path easier. And one of those ways is through this podcast, is through saying to people, like, there are people that have come before you and there's people that have come before me that are trying to make this path wider and smoother and, easier for you to navigate. And so if that's all I get to pass on is this amazing circle that we've created between the four of us, and, that I get to be a small part of, for the next 7 generations, they're going to have that knowledge now. We're passing that on, and that's wealth, right? Like that.
The future is a relative that a relation that we didn't
Absolutely
necessarily say outright, but like all my relations means the future too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know we're kind of still, I feel like we're sort of still into this introductory of who we are and how what our values are and our viewpoints, but we are going to dive into some really hard topics about business. So I just want to say that, like, from my point of view, all of this stuff is really going to put into context where we're coming from, who we are, how we approach things, and just to have beauty and kindness behind it. But that doesn't mean that everything is going to be easy and beautiful, because sometimes living in the business world is lonely and hard, and there's lots of struggles. So I think the piece that I appreciate what Felicia was saying was, this is going to be a beautiful thing, that we create an incredible relationship with our viewers, which is, to us, is super important because we didn't have this. We didn't have somewhere where we could go listen and how's it going and what's the reality of doing business. Who can I talk to? I'm hoping that we'll create resources. And we did an interview in the beginning and he said, well, what are the platforms that people can go talk to other entrepreneurs? And I was like,
Yeah.
Where
do I get advice?
I don't think there are any.
Well, and that's the other piece I missed, actually, when Shawnee was talking about, how people will reach out to you and you'll go out for coffee with them and you don't know if it's a visit or is it a pick your brain. I struggle with this online. One of my favorite social media platforms, actually the only one I use right now, is LinkedIn. And I don't know how many posts that I see coming from the Western world on a near daily basis saying, no, you can't pick my brain. My time is worth money. So if you want to if you want to set up a meeting with me, well, guess what? It's going to cost you money. And people are celebrating this. And that has never sat well with me because I'm the type of person that's like, yes, tell me more. Tell me about your business. I'll give you all the ideas I have. Some of them will stick. Some of them might be crazy and some of them won't be. But how does a new person actually get knowledge and actually start to make the connections into what you alluded to? Some of these industries or circles are so small, it's pay to play, or it's this or it's that, and these other people forgot where they came from or something, because we all start somewhere. And so now all I'm seeing when people are posting this, my time is worth money, and how dare you email me out of the blue asking to pick my brain, like.
Can you imagine if we had more of that?
I just don't understand this.
I sat with a brand. I sat with a very popular brand in Edmonton for probably 4 or 5 hours. And literally they just asked me any question that they had. And suppliers, contacts, networks, things that have worked, things of systems, platforms. And they're doing amazing. And, I was like, I get to be a piece of that. I get to be a part of that, and I just think there's so much beauty in that. I also don't understand why it has to be so transactional. Yes, my time is valuable. Absolutely. 100%. I don't have to do that with every brand that approaches me. But I think if we all did it a little bit more, how much better off would we all be,
There is like a downside to this, though, in that, do you know how many... That's why I just think it's kind of like, because I was like, oh, that's rich. Because like a lot of these non-Indigenous organizations or people will come to me and tell me, how do I meet Indigenous people? What conferences should I go to? And they want all my cultural community knowledge, and they want it for free. And I'm like, you guys do know what I do for work as well, right? Like, so there is it's sort of, I just think it's funny that the non-Indigenous people are saying that when they refuse to pay our elders, they refuse to pay us.
I feel like that's different. Like that's
It is
like a
different.
no. Yeah, no.
But
You don't get
also,
that for nothing.
it's
Minimum,
for me, it's hypocritical because it's like you want to be paid for a coffee
meeting,
but then you want me to go for a coffee with you and tell you how to navigate the Indigenous community in Edmonton, and I'm like, no, like, why is that? But at the same time, I do still do it because I want our community to have nice things.
Right.
But it's partnerships and good relations, and we come from a place of trust where we want people, we trust that people are acting in good faith and good intentions. But there is a tax. Your company pays a tax for having to provide that extra cultural awareness training to people, or us educating people on you know, why Indigenous businesses are, you know, should be included in the economy. Like there's so many things that you have to do, or what protocol is, you know, and it's just the extra things that we have to tack on that
Time
we,
and teaching.
yeah, exactly. But we also have to respect our relations, the people that we serve, the community, the suppliers, the community that supports our businesses, and you know, make sure that we're guiding people in the right way. I used to always be so hesitant about like, well, why do I have to teach them this in order to get, you know, my business looked at? But at the same time, I think, okay, if I'm not teaching them,
Who
who is?
I know,
And you know, and
that can be scary too.
that's terrifying.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think, even when I first kind of started my business, which was off the side of my desk at my full-time job, you know, I was working with a couple of chiefs at that time, and one of them said to me, you know, we need you. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, do you know how many consultants we work with who we pay, like the chief and their community pay the consultant for them to teach the consultant about why they even want to announce a thing or why they want to do what they want to do. And so then they start giving cultural awareness training to these non-Indigenous consultants on their own dime. Make it make sense. And so one of the things that kind of, I think, kickstarted Pipiguan was that people were like, we can just get started with you. Maybe you don't know all of it, but you understand where we're coming from, right? And it was true most of the time. And I would have ideas of how to navigate this or do it a bit more strategically. And even now when we have clients come to us and you can tell sometimes they're not quite there, we'll say, would you like to take a training from either us or one of our partners? And then let's start on the work. Because it's going to be hard to move this forward if we're trying to get you to understand why we're doing this thing. You know, we've had even other people we've met in the community where they've had other PR firms that didn't want to do something because it was too sad. I don't think we should tell that part of your story because it's too sad and it takes away from the celebratory part of this nature. And I remember being like, and she was like, but that's what I want to do. And I'm like, well, then you should do that. And there is a way to still acknowledge who you are, where you come from, and still have celebration, you know? And the other part, though, of that is there's lots of people who want to create conflict. And I made a joke about how conflict is always a great news story, and they'll pick that up, no problem. But at the end of the day, some agencies will mine your trauma and the conflict for success.
We were talking about that earlier during our break, and the residential school is a really good example of that in my mind. I don't know how many organizations I've had that have said to me, hey, can you get a survivor to come tell their story on this day for us? And I absolutely cringe. I'm like, there are enough stories out there that have been recorded, and you know, you don't need to re-traumatize someone
Re-traumatize.
because, you know, you think that this is the way you're going to answer truth and reconciliation. That is not the case. Like, there are so many other options that you can do. Why do you want to continuously trot out somebody, and re-traumatize them over and over? But I think, and again, so then it does become a teaching. Oh, the best was, oh my gosh, you guys are going to love this one. I forgot all about it. I had a newspaper reach out to me and say they were doing a special section on residential schools. And I was working for a First Nations organization, and they said, but so do you want to place an ad? And so they were reaching out. So this was the best. They were reaching out only to Indigenous organizations to pay for the special on residential school. Did they reach?
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
I do know who you're talking about. And I was like, gave them a teaching moment.
Well, I'm sure you were much kinder in your teaching moment than I was in mine, because there were words that went back. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. How do you figure out when someone is coming to you genuinely with an open heart and mind, and literally I have nowhere to turn. I don't know anybody in the community, but you know what, Shawnee, I've seen you around, and I really want to know, how do you know the difference between that person and the person that's like, I know a shortcut I sit on a board with an Indian girl. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've been that Indian.
Exactly. So I'm just going to go to her and she'll tell us what to do. And they're not paying you. They're not respecting. There's no open heart, open mind. How do you tell the difference between those two?
That's what we've inherited. That feeling that we get when something doesn't feel right. I do it all the time. Like when we have to look at, things to sponsor, or new vendor applications, or corporations that want to work with us. If they want me to pretend to be Santa Claus and go and give out 3,000 boxes at, downtown headquarters or wherever, like, I'm not going to do that. It feels very token. I know that there are red flags that come up where I'm like, oh, absolutely not. Or you also, on the other side, it feels right. Yeah. It just fits. And I think maybe approach. Maybe that's them slowing down and being honest and authentic with us and saying, I don't know where to go to find sweetgrass. I don't know where to go to find a PR company that can be really respectful and gentle with the stories that we want to tell in this thing, and just being authentic really it really says a lot about you, because there's not many people or organizations that will be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know. And when you have those women, they're usually named Linda or Kim or Debbie.
Karen.
In the organizations who come to you, and they will say straight up, like, I need your help. Yeah. And that's like, well, all of a sudden we have an equal playing field. Right. And we're like,
for sure.
I want
respectful.
To help. Yeah.
You can, I think, when you have somebody who is genuinely interested in learning, I think it's pretty obvious, you know.
You can be like, listen, Linda.
Linda,
listen. But yeah, I think we do that in, like, we don't always know how it's going to work with some of our clients, but people can't hide it for long,
Isn't
that's
that
the thing. Yep. Their true self is going to come out, and don't ignore it. Don't say, oh, well, maybe I got him on a bad day. Well, maybe you did. But if something is saying, yeah, this is feeling transactional now, or, something is, you're feeling isolated or gaslit, there's just so many ways to say, oh, this isn't what they said. And also, are they putting action behind their words? Like, that is the biggest thing. Like, when a client comes to us, and maybe if they're honest, because vulnerability is a real strength, and I know we're going to talk about that in the next episode, but I think if they're willing to come to us and say, look, we have never worked in this field, we really want to, blah, 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 I don't know nothing. Okay, great. Thanks for starting. And now we know where we're starting from. But then there'll be people who'll be like, oh, we do this and this. And then I take a quick cruise to their website and I'm like, come on, buddy. What are you doing? Why are you lying to me?
It's true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
because all my relations means all of us and all of our understanding in our position. And I want to bring us back to close out this session with this idea of this ritual that we do at Indigenous Box, and coming back to this thing that we do now called
Where did you find the berries?
where we share something small that has brought abundance in your work. And to me, listening to this conversation, I want to bring us back to relations. When we are creating a movement like what we're doing at Indigenous Box, or what I believe we're doing, we're creating this movement. And I don't believe that a movement goes anywhere without relations. A movement without relations is stagnant. And so we need each other. So tell me, where did you find the berries this week?
I feel like as soon as you just started recapping and talking about relationship, and so I hired a consultant last, November or October maybe. And a friend of mine, Veronica McCrae, I remember she had hired her. And she had told me that she found this amazing person and she'd worked for the Olympics and all this stuff. And she's great. And so then a couple months later, I was like, so how's it going with that consultant? You know? And she was like, oh my gosh, I still love her. Everything's great. Da, 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 da. And so I was just getting to this point where I'm not operations. Like, if you guys can't figure that out, like, I don't know how to work an Excel sheet. I'm trying. But, so finally, I just was like, I need help. And, you know, I have my own PTSD I need to work around accepting help and bringing someone in who can help me with my business, right? And so I brought her in, and her name is Sandy Swanigan. And she is just such a spitfire. She's in her 60s. And I would never have thought that someone could come in, see me, what I'm trying to do, and believe in me so much. Like, and the way that she came to us, and I'm just so grateful for her. And this week was hard. Like, it was a very hard week. And she, you know, she was there for me in a way that I did not anticipate. And so my berries are for Miss Sandy Swanigan today. I really appreciate her and that she came into my life the time she did. So
I love that.
yeah. What about you? Thank you. What about you, Felicia?
I would say for me this week we had, it's been such a crazy journey I'm going through a rebrand and new packaging and new products. And it's been so much, like just so much going on like constantly. And, you know, trying to make something I'm really not good at is when I make a big dinner, like a turkey dinner, getting all the foods ready at the exact same moment. So they're all hot and fresh and there's no scud on the gravy. And so I'm like, I feel like I've been doing that with this, especially with this new packaging and trying to get, you know, all the packaging there and the boxes there. Anyway, long story short, as I'm doing all this, another order came in and I still have old packaging to use. And I'm like, I need to make a bannock order. I have 2 kids, 2 boys, and my youngest is 19 and my oldest is like, I never want to see another bag of bannock in my life. Like, don't even ask me, Mom. But my little one celebrates every time a PO comes in.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Like, he legitimately celebrates. And every time one comes in, he says the same thing. Well, that's good. Well, that's good. And I just thought, oh, what a great attitude to have. Like, he's just like, that's good. And he's like, let's go. Let's go. So that's where I found my berries this week, is really finding that motivation in the son that doesn't talk much, but that's good. And let's go.
I love that.
I love that so much. How adorable.
So Vanessa, where did you find the berries this week?
This week, my berries come from not working.
Oh, yes.
I know. I think it's something a lot of people, I think maybe more people are talking about it now. But I took 10 days to go on a trip with my sister to go visit our parents who spend the winter in Mexico, which sounds very entitled.
No,
But really, it was a very conservative trip. It wasn't like it's not like I have a ton of money to spend on a big old vacation. And we were just in an Airbnb place. They spend the winter there because they have, they're in their late 70s, and the climate, they have a lot of joint pain, and really probably costs them the same to live there as it does here. But spending that time with them, just relaxing, there was no expectations. It wasn't like we were at a resort, so we were cooking meals together and exploring together. And yeah, my parents are just, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, probably have. But I'm really obsessed with my parents. They're like so adorable now, they're getting older and they're always trying to tell you something like, don't you forget, and you better remember this. And it's so great. So yeah, to be able to spend 10 days with some of my parents. I have 4 parents, but anyways, it was wonderful. And yeah, I'm so grateful to have that time with them and my sister.
Sometimes we find the berries, or sometimes we need other people to help us find the berries or navigate to the berries. And that really ties back into this concept of all my relations. Sometimes I realize that when we talk about all my relations, we're sitting in so much gratitude for our parents, for our family, for the people that we surround ourselves with. And that's the lesson in this episode, I think, that people need to realize. Indigenous and non-Indigenous businesses need to realize that, yes, a transaction has the power to maximize a moment, but a relationship will stabilize the future. That is kahkiyaw niwâhkômâkanitik, all my relations.
I love that.
I want our listeners to share their berries too. And so if you're listening, I want you to share where you found the berries, where you found abundance this week. And maybe next week on our episode, we'll share a little bit about where you found your berries. So thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us as we pay homage to all my relations. Kahkiyaw.
Hey.
Settle Down is hosted by Shawnee Gwynn, Elisa Dewar, Mallory Youngway, and Vanessa Marshall. It was produced by Omar Moalam. Video production by Mazen Mahfouz. The show was recorded at 9th and Peace in Musqueam. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and review us and follow us at Settle Down Pod. Thank you to the community of people who helped us. Janet Gruden, Merrick Tyler, Bernadine Coleman, and Be a Dreamer Films. Our music is by Asco. Our logo is designed by Pipikwan Betagon. I'm Teresa Strawberry, and this has been Settle Down.